Hey guys, how's it going? Nick here. Welcome back to another episode. Today we're talking about editing software and which one is right for you in 2019. Today we're going to be talking about the big three, at least in my opinion, in the YouTube space, which is Premiere Pro, Final Cut Pro, and DaVinci Resolve 15. So let's roll the intro and get into the juice of this video. So in this video, I'm going to break it down for you which editing software is right for you. Obviously, there are certain caveats with certain bits of software, and we're going to get into the juicy meat of it all in this video so you know which one you should go for. We're going to start off with price because they all do have sort of different price options. So the cheapest of the three is actually DaVinci Resolve, and that's because, well, you can actually download that right now, today, for free. So if you haven't used it before, I recommend doing it because it's not going to cost you anything and it does work on PC or Mac. So right off the bat, if you want to just start editing and you don't want to spend a single bit of money, at least right away, just right now, go download it, and I got some tutorials if you want to check them out. But DaVinci Resolve does have a paid version, and I do recommend if you are serious about content creation and creating videos, whether that's YouTube or filmmaking or whatever, I do recommend going for that. So the pricing for DaVinci Resolve for the full studio package is $405 American, and that $405 will get you upgrades for the rest of the time. You buy it once and you have it, and Blackmagic has been really great with pumping up the updates, not just with stability fixes, but also with new features constantly all the time, which is fantastic. And if you've been on my channel before, you know that I'm a bit of a fan of DaVinci Resolve. Next in line is Final Cut Pro. That comes in at $399. Very similar pricing as DaVinci Resolve, and again, you pay that once, free upgrades, you've got the software for life, you don't have to think about it again. Now the reason I do mention this is because Premiere Pro is on a subscription service similar to Netflix or Spotify. You have to pay $20.99 per month to use the software, and that is just Premiere Pro. That's not After Effects or Photoshop, just the one bit of software. The upside to that is $20.99 is pretty affordable for most people. You know, you just chuck it in the billing cycle, and you probably don't need to think about it too much. The downside is that once you hit that 19-20 month mark of using Premiere Pro, you have now gone over the cost of the other two bits of software, and you're gonna have to keep paying it. So it only just gets more expensive. So if it is something you plan on using for a while, it is the most expensive of the bunch. The upside there is it's in the Adobe ecosystem, so if you do decide to get After Effects and Photoshop down the line, it all integrates very, very nicely together, and it does work on PC and Mac, so it's a really great option. But that's how the pricing breaks down for all three. Pros and cons to sort of all of them. Which one is right for you? Because I feel like they do sort of suit different markets better. Straight off the bat, if you're a PC user, don't worry about Final Cut Pro, right? That's a no-brainer at this point. It's for Macs only, but we're gonna sort of ignore that fact here because I think Final Cut Pro is a really good entry point for sort of newcomers to the video space, especially younger people, so like 16 to 21, because I feel like the interface of Final Cut Pro is very modern. I guess the way of editing is, it's not intuitive if you've edited on a normal video timeline, but I feel like it's intuitive, you know, today's creatives, people that grew up with iPhones and iPads, because it is that, it just makes sense as you're editing. The downside to Final Cut Pro is that if you want to do any sort of heavy visual effects, that's just not something that piece of software can do right now, but it does have so many plugins, and so you can generally just go through and buy, and I'll leave some links down below, Motion VFX, Motion Array, so many plugins for Final Cut Pro. And it's that reason why I feel like Final Cut Pro is just great for your hobbyist creator. I know you can do serious projects with Final Cut Pro, but there are just a few downsides like organization. I feel like it just doesn't offer itself really great to sort of like a more professional video content creator, but it's super quick. You can get into it on any kind of Mac. So even if you have a MacBook Air, iMac, whatever, it's gonna work really, really well. And even like the lowest end MacBooks that you can buy right now can edit 4K video in Final Cut Pro without a hiccup. So, I mean, it's really great if you just wanna get into it. And generally people that go into Final Cut Pro come from iMovie, and it is very similar sort of workflow. So if you're just a hobbyist creator and you just wanna get into it, pump out a few videos for YouTube or whatever, travel videos for your family, I feel like Final Cut Pro is a really good option. I mean, if you have a Mac, right? Now, DaVinci Resolve 15 and Premiere Pro are what I consider to be the more professionally laid out bits of software, due to the fact that there is a lot of media organization built into the software, so you can organize your clips with different colors and sort it in a more logical way, especially for large projects where you have multiple cameras, drones, GoPros, and all that sort of stuff. They do lend themselves better to larger creators. That doesn't mean you can't pump out quick content like Final Cut Pro. A lot of YouTubers out there do use Premiere Pro as their default editing software. People like Peter McKinnon, Matty Hapoya, Chris Howe, you know, they do use Premiere Pro. The downside that I find with Premiere Pro is that you need a beefy computer to run it. That whether that's a Mac or a PC, it just needs to be spec'd to the rafters to run Premiere Pro at its best. And even then, you're probably still gonna use proxy files for some of your footage just because it is a resource hogging bit of software. And even myself, I've got a 2016 MacBook Pro pretty much maxed out, and I struggle to edit 4K video in Premiere Pro on that machine. So that is the downside to Premiere Pro. The upside is that it's linked into Adobe's huge creative suite, Photoshop, Illustrator, After Effects, and being able to just dynamic link across all those bits of software is fantastic. And as a full package, it is fantastic. But again, I feel like the cost of entry is quite high. Sure, the monthly subscription of $21, let's say, is pretty cheap, but to have a machine capable enough of running it that's gonna set you back definitely a couple of thousand if you want to get a nice smooth experience. This is where I sort of veer away from Premiere Pro because you're just going to struggle, and I find that if you're not enjoying the editing process, you're not going to want to do it. And unless you have a machine spec to high hell, it's just not going to run. And that's why I use DaVinci Resolve, and why I think for a lot of people out there, it's a sort of like that black sheep. Not a whole lot of people know about it, but I think it lends itself to a wider audience. So in terms of layout, it is very similar to Premiere Pro. It operates on a standard layered timeline system. It has great media organization tools, but further still, it has industry-leading color correcting software built into it. So you have that, and in fact, professionals still tend to go to DaVinci Resolve to color grade their footage, it also has a visual effects software built into it, which is Fusion. It's kind of like After Effects. It's a little bit more fiddly, but it's built into the bit of software. It's free. If you're creating content for YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, or even, for clients and all that, this bit of software is the easiest way to get in because you don't have to pay a cent out of your pocket, and it is really well optimized whether you're on a Mac or a PC. I'll link some videos down below, but Max Yuriev has done a lot of videos comparing the sort of specs of MacBook Pros and PCs against the speed of editing software. And constantly I'm blown away by DaVinci Resolve, which is constantly beating out Adobe and Final Cut Pro in the speed department. And my experience speaks leaps and bounds to that because I never get any hiccups editing 4K footage. The render times are fast. So what you're getting is a free bit of software that has everything you're gonna need with a professional layout that's super quick. And I'll leave a link down below if you want to download it now. And I do have heaps of tutorials on this channel if you want to check it out. All right, guys, so in summary, with these 3 bits of software, I would recommend Final Cut Pro to the new age editors. So people who are like 16 through to 21, they're just getting into it and are more hobbyist than anything, just because the speed of the software, it's sort of laid out intuitively for people that grew up with sort of touchscreen interfaces, and it does upload straight to your favorite social media like YouTube and Facebook. Is very easy and intuitive that way. If your goal is getting into the pro space, working for large companies as an editor, then maybe Premiere Pro is your bet. I think you'd gain more from learning that bit of software because I think at this point in time, it is one of the industry standards next to Avid, and you'll get more from putting the time in and learning it. But like I said, the cost of entry into that bit of software tends to be a bit higher than the others. But if you don't fall into either of those categories, maybe you want to be an independent filmmaker, you want to start your own company, or you're not quite sure where you lie at the moment, I feel like DaVinci Resolve is the way to go because you get speed, professional layout, professional tools, just a bit of software that is free to use, but packed full of features. I think of the 3, it is just the one that's not talked about the most it should be. Anyway guys, hope you enjoyed this video. Hit that thumbs up button if you did. Drop a comment down below. What bit of software do you use? I'm quite curious to see, what the sort of breakdown is of the viewers on this channel. Until next video guys, see ya.